Okay, I'd like to call the September 3rd, 2019 meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education to order. First up is to approve the minutes from our August 19th meeting. I have a motion.
Yeah.
Katrina, second? Jen, all those in favor? Any abstentions? Okay, thanks. Okay.
They look good.
Okay, next is to review and approve the agenda. Have a motion? Penny, second. Sherry, all those in favor? Thanks. Okay, next is comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Do I have anyone who'd like to speak? No. Okay, thanks. Next is reports and recognition. First up is our back to school principal reports.
I will.
Who's first?
I'll take it from here. Thanks. They don't know. I apologize for that. They're all eager and ready to share with the board some information about their opening of school. As you know, annually we invite our principals to come and just share a little bit about their first day, enrollment, anything going on, any highlights, what have you, and certainly for the board to ask any questions if you'd like. It's also an opportunity for me to introduce John Grasso to you, but we'll hold off on that for a quick moment because we won't have the new guy go first. Instead, I'll ask Principal Murphy from West School to lead the way for us. So right up to the podium if you could. Yeah.
So welcome back, everyone. Nice to see everybody tonight. So this year at West School, after our faculty came together to kind of sort of share what happened in the summer and just sort of get our focus back for the year, we decided on a saying, and it's just really simple, 3 simple words: see the good. And so for this year, our motto is see the good, make it a great day at West. So this year we welcomed back on Thursday, August 22nd, 424 students, 32 of whom were new to West. On Thursday, August 22nd, we held what we have come to know as our New to West, welcoming new families. We had our approximately 15, we have a new student group this year called the Whalers, and they welcomed to our school the 32 new students by preparing a scavenger hunt for them and showing them different parts of the building with Mrs. Fernari. This year we have 22 sections, which is down 1 section. We lost 1 section of 2nd grade this year due to enrollment. We have 4 sections of kindergarten with 74 students. Grade 1 has 4 sections with 77 students. Grade 2 has 4 sections with 74 students. Grade 3, 5 sections with 97 students. And grade 4 is our biggest section. We have 5 sections with 100 students. So it started on Monday, August 26th, when we welcomed our students for our meet and greet, followed by a faculty lunch and a meeting. And in the afternoon, our faculty attended grade level meetings with special education staff, and it really was kind of a time for them to get to learn about the academic, social, and emotional needs of their students. So the next 2 days, August 27th and 28th, faculty spent, and myself, professional development, meeting with curriculum coordinators, department administrators, and chairpersons, and then we continued our work on our emotional intelligence. On Wednesday morning, the faculty came together to review our school charter, and we selected one word from our charter, inspire, as a word to kind of focus on for the next couple of months as we begin the school year. And after hearing Dr. Lutzy at our convocation, he, and I'll quote, he says, "The work we do with students is the most important work on the planet." So we were inspired by that quote to take a look at our school charter, and we revised some things on it. We condensed it a little bit, but we really committed to trying to make each one another feel inspired in the next couple of weeks as we start our new school year. This year we're focusing on the integration of what we call our 3 R's, our behavioral expectations: be ready, be respectful, be responsible, and aligning them with our learning community growth goal to be kind and show empathy. So this will allow us to use our charter, the mood meter, to teach kids how to access some of those strategies that they've learned with our EI work when they're on the playground, when they're on the bus, in the classroom, in the lunchroom, at recess, so on and so on. We were also inspired by a book that we read as administrators this summer called The Culture Code. And one of the things that it talks about is knowing our why. Why do we do what we do? And so our faculty spent about an hour on Wednesday morning just talking about, and actually instead of writing words, we drew a visual to show why we do what we do. We have those on display in the faculty lounge, and we thought that was a great way to get teachers inspired for, and that's our word, inspired for the new school year. This year, our whole school student learning goal is focused around students being engaged in learning strategies that promote 21st century learning skills, such as creative thinking, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, including a focus on student choice and student voice. Our learning community growth is a continuation of the work that we're doing on emotional intelligence, developing that empathy. We feel like our kids are really getting good at becoming self-aware, especially using our EI work, and now it's sort of saying, okay, now that you're aware of how you feel, let's take a look at how maybe some things that you do might make other people feel. So Thursday morning was another great first day at West. It was inspiring, and I'm going to use that word a lot, to stand on the bus platform to welcome back our students at West as they arrived on our buses. Our central office administrators were there to greet our student, and again, looking for the good in everything throughout the day. We sent out an email about 2 o'clock that afternoon just to kind of update parents on how well everything sort of fell into place. Of course, we didn't have our kindergartners there on Thursday. They had their meet and greet officially for 1 hour with their teachers and their moms and dads that day as they kind of transitioned back into school. On Friday, we had our welcome back luncheon provided by our incredibly generous PTC. I didn't think anything could top last year with our floating goldfish in the vases, but there was another amazing watermelon carving. This time, Westy was made of blueberries. So that was really nice. This year, I brought a book. As you know, we always have one book that we kind of focus around every year, and this book is one of our favorite authors, Peter Reynolds, and it's called Say Something. And in this book, this is one of his newest ones, he sends a message that every person is amazing and has something meaningful to contribute to the world. And it's written in a very unique style that it's arranged in a series of if and when statements followed by the words, say something. And it gives a specific idea on every page about how students and children can use their voice to say something. So it aligns with both of our school goals. We continue to build upon our morning meetings. We're going to be focusing again, as I said, on the 3 R's, integrating some of the skills that the kids have learned with Ruler, learning some new strategies with Ruler. We welcomed a lot of new staff to our faculty this year. We have a new school psychologist, two new special education teachers. One is a leave replacement for a teacher who is on 1-year leave. We have a new long-term sub in preschool, a new preschool teacher. We added a 3-year-old teacher to our preschool program. We added a new occupational therapist and a new long-term sub for a grade 1 teacher who is on leave. So we spent a lot of time interviewing this summer. We have 3 brand new general ed teaching assistants, 2 special education teaching assistants, and we do have one of our interns is returning this year to complete her student teaching in 2nd grade. And we have a new intern from Sacred Heart University who will be doing her student teaching in the spring of 2020. We have one teacher, Stephanie Somerville, who is our ICT teacher. She achieved, which I believe is a very big distinction. She became an IST certified educator. And that's a recognition from the International Society for Technology in Education. And she said it was very rigorous and very, challenging accomplishment. So we're very proud of her. She'll be sharing some of her learning with us. This year, Tim Stella, our PE teacher, will be teaching our health classes for grades 1 through 4. Classroom teachers will be remaining in the classroom as he teaches them some of the great decision-making strategies so that they can in turn use them with the kids in the classroom. And we jokingly refer to this as the PTC is going green, literally, because we're Westy the Whales. All of our faculty were mugged by the PTC. Each of them received a ceramic mug to keep us green and so we don't have to buy coffee cups anymore. So that's a good step in the right direction for going green. Quick building and grounds update. Our AC in the gym is now working. We're getting a new video monitor thanks to our PTC in the gym. We have a new card reader in grade 3. We have new grass planted in the back after the water tower construction and the septic tank work. New hand dryers in the bathrooms and various painting that's been done across the building. We also have, and I invite all of you to come and see it, our new outdoor learning center. The pavers are installed, the wall is installed, the grass is planted, and right now we're waiting for a customized shade to be installed, and then we're taking a look at how we want to use the space so that we can decide, what kind of tables or chairs or whatever we want to put in the space. So again, another thanks to our generous PTC. Open house for us is September 12th and September 25th. Grades K1 and 2 on the 12th. I'm sorry, it's the 17th. That's the wrong date. And the 25th is grades 3 and 4. We have our back to school assembly next Friday, and I think that's it. Our goal for the first day was that every child hopefully went home safe, excited, and upbeat, and glad to be able to come to school on Friday. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Great. So we, once again, the cabinet jumped in a car together and we traveled around from building to building, and we arrived at West about 5 minutes of 9. I was very nervous thinking we were going to miss the dismissal, and we pull in and the majority of the teachers are standing out front, just standing there. And we walk up to them and say, what are you doing? What's going on? They looked at us and said, we just really want our kids to get here. This has been great, and we've had a great opening and great 2 days of PD, but we are ready for our kids. And then a couple of minutes later, the kids arrived, and big smiles on everyone's faces, and they all ran in together, so it was great. Okay. Well, next, I'm going to ask John Grasso to step up first. John, as you know, is our interim principal over at South Elementary School. He began this summer. Began with his communications right away. I don't want to tell any stories yet. I'll let him speak, so I don't take anything that he's going to talk about. But already off to a wonderful start over there at South, and in our travels on our first day, we were able to see our kindergarten in there, beginning their orientation, coming and going, and crowds of people outside buying all their South School swag.
My granddaughter just inherited lots of swag from South.
Yeah.
It's a little story. She made me a heart out of wood, and on the heart she printed all the schools that I've worked at or gone to, and there's a lot of schools. So I said to her, how do you know all the schools that I've been at? She said, you give me a shirt every time you get a new job. So good evening, Chairman Hayes, board members, Superintendent Lutzy. My name is John Grasso, and I'm very pleased to be serving as the interim principal at South School for the 1920 school year. As an administrator with over 25 years of experience in a variety of school environments, there is one universal moment all schools share. It happens about 15 minutes into the first day of school. With the build-up that rivals a Broadway opening, teachers spend days preparing bulletin boards, attending meetings, readying their classrooms as they anticipate the arrival of their new students. Finally, opening night, or in this case, opening day, the doors open, the children file in, and by 8:45, everybody's in their place and ready to fulfill the promise of a new year. It just happens. It's happened every year that I've been a principal, and it continues to happen. And so it was this past week at South. Thanks to the timely and efficient work of the roofing company, Greenwood Industries, the supervision of Dan Clark, our facilities manager, and the coordination of Joanne Keating, the director of finance, and the hard work of the custodial crew, 538 students began the next chapter in their lives as lifelong learners under a new roof. We await the arrival of the solar panels that will provide us with a great teaching moment. If I have had any success in my career as a school principal, I owe it to the following advice of the former Ford executive Lee Iacocca. I have been able to lead, been able to follow, and in the case of the PTA and the PTCs, get out of the way. So I'm thrilled to be here this year. I welcome all of you back. I welcome you to come and visit South, and I look forward to a great school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris?
Good evening. Welcome back to everyone. Chris Wallach, principal at East School, and our beginning of the year actually started before that first day, of course. We had a summer edition of our East Weekly News. If any of you were following the East Weekly News or heard about the East Weekly News last year, you know it really was an opportunity in our school to allow our students to use our green screen, which has become sort of a green screen room with our ICT tech integrator, and to produce a school-wide sort of production each week that has a bit of creativity, some school news, and really promoted school morale and a sense of belonging in that community. And so we decided we'd have a summer edition of our East Weekly News that was put out in August. It's still on our website, so I invite you, if you haven't seen it, to see it there. It was an opportunity for our students, some of our students, to share what makes East School great. And that was really our theme leading up to the start of the year, as we welcomed over 45 new students in grades 1 through 4 at our New to East event prior to the start of the year. We had student representatives, their returning students, who shared at each grade level what they felt makes East School great. Things like awesome teachers, terrific events, classroom libraries that always have a good book to read. It was a really diverse group of thoughts that our students shared and really welcomed our new students. We also had a wonderful ice cream social to welcome back returning families and also our new families. Our East School mascot made a very special appearance. That's always welcomed by our students. And then we had our meet and greet. Just following convocation here, our staff made it back to the building, right around some construction on the way, but made it back in time to greet all of our students, really, who were returning at that point and eager to meet their teacher and see their new classmates. Our staff, similar to what Jan described, had several days together to welcome new staff. We have 8 new staff members this year, 2 classroom teachers, 2 special education teachers, 2 school psychologists, and 2 long-term substitute teachers in our classrooms. We welcomed those members into our staff community and spent time as a staff over those 3 days looking at student data, looking at emotional intelligence work that's ongoing in our building, also grounded in this book that you've seen and heard about from Jan already. So I found it interesting that our staff and schools are so aligned in a lot of that work and finding connections from the work that we're doing to children's literature and other ways that we can bring these themes into classrooms. The staff at East spent the time in those 3 days also focused on themes of connections, collaboration, and cognitive engagement. And those are themes that that we'll be talking about and focusing on both as a staff and with our students this year. That included connecting not only with each other as a staff, but also looking at our faculty charter, similar to what Jan described as part of the work on those professional development days. Looking at our faculty charter, and our staff also identified the word inspired as a word that they wanted to focus on this fall in particular. Some of those action steps that they brainstormed were around the visiting of each other's classrooms, opening doors to classrooms, being able to visit each other and really share practice in a way that's focused on growing students' cognitive engagement. What does that look like and sound like in a kindergarten classroom? What does that look and sound like in a 4th grade classroom? That's work that we're going to be continuing throughout the year as our whole school student learning focus with our staff. And so we had many conversations about that and anticipate many more as the year moves along. On August 29th, we welcomed 555 students to East School. It was a wonderful day. It ran very smoothly. Our kindergartners came for an orientation visit with parents. They were then back riding the bus on Friday, and we had several who shared that their favorite moment of kindergarten on Friday was the bus ride. It's a very typical response for a kindergartner, and it was wonderful to hear that. But there were smiles all around that day, and I know I've said this before, but it is true. Each and every year, there's something special about the first day, just as John shared. Teachers are excited, students are excited. It's really part of this profession that is so rewarding each and every year to watch those first days of school, but really that first day of school in particular. The energy that's there and that sense of renewal and sort of a great opportunity that's ahead. And I think everyone was feeling that as we started the year. Teachers already are beginning their charter lessons in the classrooms. We have students coming to grade level welcome back assemblies this year rather than a whole school assembly. We're meeting with each grade level really so we could customize those welcome back assemblies to help those grade levels really think about who they are in this new grade, who they can be, and how they can contribute to our school community. Those conversations are also allowing students to think about some of the work they've done in the past, our returning students, including how they've used tools like the mood meter and how they might be able to continue to use those tools of emotional intelligence, not only in their classrooms, but in other settings across our school. So at lunch, at recess, on the bus, really wanting them to integrate those tools into their lives in an ongoing way. I also want to extend gratitude to many who have helped us behind the scenes to make that first day of school possible. We had our PTC, who not only supported our welcome back events like the New to East and our kindergarten play opportunities prior to the start of the year. They also provided a wonderful luncheon as we started the year together. We also had our secretaries who were working throughout the summer to make sure new students were welcomed, new families were welcomed, making sure classroom supplies were delivered to classrooms. Our custodians did an amazing job making sure the building looked crisp, clean, ready to go for the start of the year. Dan Clark in facilities did a terrific job. We have air conditioning in our gym. It's terrific to have. It's been something we've been waiting for and are excited to have now. We had some painting done. There's some ongoing work in terms of drainage in our playground area. Really a terrific start of the year in terms of facilities. The other piece that's new, and I know Jan mentioned this too, so it's across our elementary schools, the hand dryers in our bathrooms. Today, and I know some of you were at the building, we are all getting used to those. For young children, the sound of a hand dryer can be a little daunting at first. So everyone's acclimating to what it sounds like when you put your hand there and you sort of watch the child come out of the bathroom, not quite sure what just happened. So it's wonderful. It's always interesting in elementary school. I don't think as adults, when we made the changeover that we anticipated, we have to help orient some of our students to what life without the paper towel roll would be like in the bathrooms. We also are really looking to help our children understand how they can share gratitude to these people who have worked so hard over the summer behind the scenes. So we've encouraged our students to write notes, cards to our secretaries, our custodians. We have several that we're in the process of distributing. And I have to say, in this digital age of emails and technology, it is really powerful to watch how a handwritten note can make others feel so appreciated. So our secretaries, our custodians, I know, are appreciating that right now as they receive these cards. We're looking forward next week to our first open house on Tuesday night for our K-2 families, and the following Tuesday, September 17th, for our grade 3 and 4 families. In the meantime, we encourage all of our families to keep looking on our website. We have lots of information there, and also we have a Twitter feed where we've been trying to post just pictures of what a day in the life looks like at East School, again, as a way to stimulate conversation at home and continue to celebrate all the great work that's already underway at East School. So we're looking forward to a terrific year and thank the board for your support as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Gussich, our Sachs Middle School principal, come on up.
Okay, good evening. Greetings to the members of the Board of Education, Central Office leadership, those in attendance, and those that are tuning in live. It is an honor and a pleasure to stand before you and speak on behalf of Sachs Middle School. Thanks to all who had the building ready, physically and logistically. It looked amazing. It was ready to welcome back our 1,330 students and almost 200 staff members, with approximately 12 of those being new to us. With the help of our wonderful PTC, we were able to welcome everybody back in spirited style. We had some new logos out, we had some upbeat music going. It was definitely a great vibe as students were either getting dropped off off the buses or as they were getting dropped off by their parents down below. We carried that through, actually, all the way into this week. We've had the music going at the drop-off, and you wouldn't believe the amount of comments that we've gotten about that. And just seeing the kids walk in with a smile, there's no better way to start the day. In addition to upholding the highest level of academic excellence, we'll continue to focus on educating the whole child in a well-rounded experience. As you're aware, this is critical during this ever-changing developmental phase, where we like to affectionately say our kids are under construction. And we certainly take pride in being on this work site. We began the year with the inspiration from a video from Parkway School District outside St. Louis by asking our parents in the welcome back letter, what is their hope for their children this school year? We invited them to have a conversation with their children on what their hope was. We had our staff write down what their hope was for their students as we began the school year. And then the students were welcomed back as they got off the bus or out of their cars, and we had it up during lunches outside the cafeteria. We invited them to write what their hope was for this school year as well. Not surprisingly, but inspirationally, we saw a lot of the things that have been included in the work that we've been doing. Words that we would see on our charters. We would see words like included and happy. We would hear things like being respectful. We definitely saw fun come through by staff, certainly by students. That was definitely probably our highest used word. We even had one student, don't know who it was, but they said to not get a detention this year. We hope we can meet that hope for them this year. But it was neat to see them really take time, read what their peers had written up there, and really thoughtfully place what their hope was for this year. We capture that. We plan on making that a focus as we go throughout the year when we communicate with our students, when we have meetings with our parents, reminding them what their hope was for their children. And ultimately, at the end of the year, we hope that we're going to be able to report back that we helped our students meet some of those hopes that they set out to in the beginning of the year. In terms of what is consistent at Sachs, this year we'll continue to focus on our 5 C's, celebrating our community through caring, commitment, and communication. That is something that will be a focus. We began our grade level meetings today with beginning with 6th grade and then followed by 5th grade. That was a theme throughout. That's something that will drive our whatever it is in terms of our decision making over the course of this year. Do they come back to our foundation of what has been built into what is so important at Sachs Middle School from those 5 C's? We'll also continue our sharing through Sachs Weekly, through our social media, through our Twitter account, as well as through our Sachs News, which is exciting, and the kids do an excellent job. In terms of our physical plant, we had some office upgrades in each of our office areas, the main office, the upper division office, and the lower division office. I also want to thank Dan Clark and his amazing crew. I want to thank Joanne Keating for helping orchestrate everything. Lisa Jarosik in terms of making sure that we had everything in line and everything was followed up, as well as the rest of the team that was there in the building over the summer. It is amazing to see the transformation. I wrote in my welcome back letter, and not so glamorous, to see the 200 feet or so of main septic line that was replaced. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but to see yards upon yards upon yards of dirt down the hallway, and then the next day it was clear, covered, packed down with a layer of concrete over it, ready to be tiled, truly was nothing short of amazing. So, and I'm proud to report we're about a month in of flush-free issues, so everything is going well with the plan. So I think it's important to have a follow-up and to report that, so I'll leave it at that. What's evolving at Sachs? We instituted our new grade 6 executive functioning boot camp. which allows teachers to work with the sixth grade students where they've been noted as having some of the areas of focus that are going to be most beneficial for them in terms of planning, organizing, and processing as they transition from a little bit more of an elementary structure in fifth grade into a little bit more of that middle school model in setting them up for sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. Off to a great start, and people are really excited about that. We've been able to modify our schedule for a connections block to continue that emotional intelligence work that we have undertaken and that has been very well received, and we've seen a lot of positive benefits from. And we're going to continue to build on opportunities to foster community in formats such as the aforementioned grade level meetings, as well as some town hall meetings where we'll be able to get not only grade levels together, but also teams together to be able to have a little bit more of student voice and choice and allow students to be part of the planning and what goes on within their school community. And we'll continue to go back to our 5 Cs and what our focus is over the course of the year. Overall, our focus in general is to continue to develop kind, caring, well-rounded people. And I have to say that one of the highest compliments is to hear a student or a parent report that their child had a positive experience in school, especially at this time of the year where kids are just coming back and you see them in the hallway or at recess or in the cafeteria, to see their faces light up and see them be excited about being at Saks. There's nothing more rewarding than seeing that or hearing that from a child or a parent. So happy to report that's happened several times over the last few days. Finally, I want to thank the Board of Education and the community for your continued support. We, of course, invite you in at any time if you want to check anything out. And the Saks Middle School team looks forward to making the 2019-20 school year the best one yet. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions? Deanna?
You can't leave yet, Dave, sorry. I heard your executive functioning boot camp.
Yes.
So that's for identified kids or for everyone in the grade?
Every single sixth grade student. We have 314 students currently.
Okay.
They have been blocking out the first 12 workshop periods where they're going to be working on these prescribed lessons that were worked on over the course of the summer. Dr. Clapp and a team of counselors and teachers worked on through research and what they saw as best practice to set them up to start the sixth grade school year. Also based on feedback in terms of what we heard from teachers, things that would be helpful for them, organizing their lockers, using their planners, difference between physical and digital planners. So so far, we're only a couple lessons in, but it's off to a great start and people are really excited about it. Okay. So I'll be happy to report out more as that goes along.
No, that'd be great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? I love the classic rock this morning, by the way.
Good.
It's good.
Excellent, thank you. We'll have to keep that in mind for tomorrow.
All right.
And last but never least, our high school principal, Billy.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. For those of you who don't know my personality type, going first is probably always better. So I'm listening to some of these very detail-oriented people go, I'm like, I left that out, I left that out, I left that out. And I said, you know what? I'm going to enjoy myself. I made a promise to myself this year that I talked to Dr. Lutzi about this, that ultimately I want to enjoy every moment of everything. So I'm just going with what I have, and I didn't try and add what everybody else has. So anyway, so thank you for having me here tonight. It's a privilege to speak to the Board of Ed always. I am truly thankful to be the New Canaan High School principal. This is the finest high school in the state. Before I start anything, I want to thank Stan and his crew for everything they do to make this place look the way it does. It looks gorgeous. And our secretaries are always amazing. They truly, the building would not operate without them, and they really make me look as good as they possibly could anyway. We had wonderful days of professional development, and I was inspired to learn alongside our teaching staff and watch them ready for the arrival of our kids. They are truly the finest group of educators, and I consider myself fortunate to call them colleagues and friends. On Thursday, we were able to welcome about 1,300 students into the building. For any of you, whoever have come to this high school at any time, there's the level of enthusiasm that is here on the first day of school is unmatched anywhere at any high school. At least I have to believe that. I find myself when the central office staff is outside, waving at everyone on this first day. I'm actually inside trying to navigate what's happening in the building. So, but truly, they bring a level of enthusiasm that really is exciting. That day, the administration made it around to every classroom in the building. I told them all, I thanked them for being back in school. I said, there is no finer day than the first day of school. Truly, everyone is so happy and ready to take on the world. I did tell them that the last day is pretty close. We also welcome 12 new staff members to the Canaan High School family and 2 student teachers and 2 interns. It's great to have new additions to our family, and they'll bring a level of enthusiasm as well to New Canaan High School. This year, we're going to continue our work on our goals as always, but we're also going to continue work on student wellness. Teachers have been invested in trying to make New Canaan High School the best place it can be for kids. One that will challenge them to be the best they can be, but also care about their well-being. This year, we're adding a few new things to the high school. There'll be no cell phones allowed in class during the day. You know, previously we had left that up to the teacher's discretion to do that. As a school, the teachers have kind of said, you know what, not a great thing for anyone. As you could tell during a meeting, I'll take a look at my phone. The cell phones are a distraction, so we want them out of the classroom. So they will not be there during the class. They can hang them. We have little cell phone cradles that they're going to put them in. They can have them during their downtime. We're not trying to stop phones in the building, so they can have them in the hallway, in the library, in the cafeteria, places like that. We've also made some changes to some homework policies. Teachers really got together and talked about it, and we said if homework is due the next day, they're going to post and make sure that homework will be posted by 2:30 each and every day. Now, if it's due a week from now and they post it later, that's okay, but post it at 2:30 if it's due the next day. If there's an electronic assignment, we want kids turning that in no later than 11 p.m. While we think that's late enough already, no later than that. But that's only if it's an electronic assignment. Obviously, if something's due in class the next day, they can come in the next day. Teachers are also going to post each and every day how long an assignment should take. So we're asking for that for several reasons, because it will promote a conversation between the teacher and student. For example, if it's supposed to take about 20 minutes, it took you 50 minutes, we want that conversation between the teacher and the student as to why it took longer than it should. Possibly there were other kids in class who were affected the same way. So we want to make sure those conversations happen. We also want to make sure kids are having conversations with their family at home. So the families will know how long the assignment takes. We want them having conversations with their child about how long the assignment should take too. And if possible, the teacher, the home and the teacher as well about that. In addition, we hope all assignments will take between 20 and 25 minutes a night. If you had 25 minutes a night times 5 classes, you're already over 2 hours of homework. Pretty much everything that's out there in any study will talk about 2 hours of homework at the high school level. So that's what we're asking teachers to try and stick to. We do realize that there'll be occasional assignments to go beyond that, but that's what we're hoping for. In addition to that, teachers created an honor code last year. They shared that with the students at our class level meetings the other day, and in addition to these things as well. We're going to be sending out for feedback from the kids. And we'll be seeking feedback from families as well in the coming weeks. I think the 12th is our PFA meeting. We'll share it then, and then share it with the greater family community as well on that. But we want parent feedback on that before it goes out to be a finalized thing for the kids. Again, while these are not the end-all be-all, we think these are good steps that the teachers are taking to try and make this as healthy a school as possible, and also continuing our academic excellence. We're also going to enhance our use of Schoology, our learning management system here at the high school. And before I go on, I would be remiss if I did not thank our parent community. Truly, they work so hard to make this school a better place for kids on a daily basis. I'm lucky to work with parents that are so invested in their kids' education. The kids are wonderful. They work very hard. They're talented, and they're better people, too. And finally, a shout out to our central office staff and our Board of Education. We're truly lucky as a group of administrators to work with such fine, committed people, and we're blessed to be here. So thank you for all you do. No questions, Deanna?
Thank you.
I saw you go right for it. I didn't know.
Sherry? Sherry first.
So I just want to say, first of all, I thought it was very adequately detailed.
Okay.
And you seem to be enjoying yourself while you were delivering it.
Just adequate. Just adequate.
I appreciate that.
Mission accomplished. So no, I actually just want to say I applaud the efforts around the new cell phone policy and the homework policy, and just, the efforts to make this a healthier school from a balanced perspective. So I think it's amazing. So.
Well, truly, I think this is an amazing school. I really do. But anything we can do to tweak things to make it better for kids, and I think all of those things do that.
Other questions?
I was only kidding, Deanna, too.
Oh, you're getting it. I'm just waiting.
Just to add to that, the homework turn-in time being moved up, I think that's great too. So thank you for listening and changing that for the electronic assignments. Just one thing, as we're transitioning to Schoology,
Schoology.
and there's different places for homework to be posted. Is there any way to just let parents know these are all the possible locations where homework could be posted? Because as, you know, having gone through 3 kids, sometimes it's like pulling teeth to find out where exactly the assignments are. And especially for 9th grade, when you're trying to help your child, you know, with the 9th grade executive functioning skills, is there any way to put that somewhere?
I'll
Or
try and
maybe you
find out a
can
way
send
to
it
do it,
out
yeah.
somehow, like, dear parents, these are all the possible places to look for homework.
And ideally, in the beginning of the year, it'll be like tests and quizzes will be posted in Schoology, but not necessarily the homework assignments. So they will be posted somewhere else, especially in the beginning. But in time, it'll all be in Schoology. So yeah, I'll
I mean, I
try and
know
figure
it's
out a way to
on
do
every
that.
single teacher's
It
letter that
is,
goes home, and we all
yeah,
sign it, but
yeah.
just one single, you know, just a thought, that might help.
No, I think that's great. And in truth, the long run Schoology will do all of that.
Right, so
Right.
as you get to that
Yeah,
one
be
place.
in one spot. Yeah.
Perfect.
Deanna?
Thank you. And I also would like to, compliment you on all these initiatives. I think these are amazing steps, and I think they'll go a long way to, impacting a lot of the social emotional issues that were identified with a lot of our students. So thank you. I just wanted to understand about what percentage of the teaching staff is using Schoology this year. I know it's a
All of
rollout.
them.
Oh, all of them this year
Correct.
are using them. Oh, that's great.
There's
But they're
some-
still not posting homework through Schoology.
There's some folks, I don't want to take Matt's thunder, but there's some first semester expectations and some second semester expectations.
Okay.
So for the first semester, you'll see tests and quizzes that would be posted, but not necessarily the daily homework assignments. Now, many of them will be comfortable enough that they will start posting it, but that's not the expectation for them. It's really when you get into the second semester, you'll see more.
Okay.
And you'll see the classes posted in the second semester.
And we're asking each teacher to do it for at least one class, is that correct?
In the
first
second semester, one class, but posting their tests and quizzes, yes, should be.
And then I just would, I'd like to suggest that at the end of the year, because these are a lot of amazing initiatives, and I think it would be helpful for the board to get some kind of survey from the students about their perceived impact on, and not from 9th graders, because they won't
Sure, I
have
get it.
experienced anything else, but particularly the senior, maybe when, as part of the internship program before they leave, or some way to sort of identify, because these are a lot of great initiatives, and maybe they won't be able to unpack which one was the most important, but I think it would be helpful for us to understand.
Well, it's interesting, you guys wouldn't necessarily know this, but some of these ideas really came from the kids too, because we have lunches, we'll call kids on a regular basis and have lunch with kids and sit and chat about what things they'd like to see done differently. So we talk about homework, we talk about cheating, we talk about all different things that go on in school, and some of these ideas really came from them. So,
Yeah.
but that's a great idea.
Okay, thanks.
That's great. Other questions, comments? That's great. I just had one, so I totally agree with Deanna on the survey. It would be great also if we could talk to parents, at some point during the year, maybe even twice, just to get a sense from them as to how it's going,
Sure.
and how they've reacted to the changes. But I think it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. Just continuing to improve things from a health and wellness standpoint is excellent. And my hope is, at the end of the day, academically, it ends up being a net positive, even though maybe from an hours perspective, kids might be spending a little bit less time, but overall, it's a better experience and they're, focused for a shorter period of time. That's the hope.
Mine too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
And thank you to our 5 principals who came out tonight. To have world-class schools, you need to have world-class principals. And tonight, again, we've got 5 of the very best. So thank you all. And I will reiterate the fact, I think we're off to an amazing start this year. Our students came bouncing off the bus on that first day. And I will share, we were all at the high school first thing on Thursday morning. I got here early, about 10 to 7 or so, and there were probably already 50 students, maybe more, in the cafeteria, lining the stairs down the hall into the cafeteria and cheering as people came through as they welcomed them into the new school year. It was really pretty amazing. That kind of energy and excitement, it is like an opening night. I think John hit it exactly right. But it speaks volumes about our students, who they are, what they bring to the experience, and how they are really well prepared to have a positive start in a positive school year. So it'll have its ups and downs as every year does, but when they start in that place, it's better for everybody. So thanks to our 5 principals and to all of your staff who really have done a great job getting things prepared and getting things underway under your guidance and leadership. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is the end-of-year unaudited financial report with Dr. Keating.
You're welcome to stay, guys.
It's always my most fun time.
We may have some questions.
There's always a first.
They have
Thank
schools
you.
to run in the morning.
I know. Yeah,
Right.
thanks, guys. So, thank you. Tonight you have before you the unaudited final financial report for FY 2019. I know in the subject area it says 17, little typo there, so please correct that. We'll have that changed before it goes out to the town boards. Just a little introduction to how this report is put together. We work over the summer through the middle of August to process all transactions that are related to the prior school year, and it primarily deals with non-salary accounts, but we do have some salary accounts that are booked back. And around the middle of the month, we reconcile, do a final reconciliation with the town. The reconciliation goes on all year, but the final closing transactions are tied out with the town's office, finance office. And then we begin the process of putting together the financial statements, and they are complete and comprehensive. You see, it's not just the general fund for this report, but it includes all the financial reports that we have under our control here at the Board of Education. So that work is done over a 2-week period. We put together our state and federal reporting, and that was concluded last week. And then we met with the Ed Resources Committee of the board for a couple of hours and went through a very detailed review of the report. I'm going to spare you that. I'll give you the cliff notes from that report. But before I do that, I would like to thank Tracy, her staff, Terry, Katie O'Neill, Michelle Ahmed, and Kara for all their hard work in the business office. They do a great job all year long. They check the transactions weekly, every time there's a warrant. So it gives us a lot of confidence as we look at these reports during the year that they are accurate and reported out correctly. So I appreciate their hard work. So O'Connor Davies will be in the middle of September. We should have the audit complete for our portion of the financial statements by the end of the month. And so if there's any changes, they'll be incorporated in the annual financial report of the town. I don't recall having any changes to our general fund in the last several years since I've been here, but that's a possibility. So the operating budget is presented on pages 3 through 7. And I wanted to bring to your attention or refresh your memory with regards to something that is unusual to this current fiscal year. When we did the reforecast in the middle of the year, we had anticipated pulling down just shy of $300,000 from the excess cost grant. And that was because students that were placed in out-of-district placements had exceeded budget by more than that. It was a little over $400,000 at that point in time. And so based on the reforecast, we gave the town a heads up that we would probably be accessing that $300,000. We said that with the understanding that things do change. We have moving parts. There's 6 months left to go with the year. And we felt at that time that that was a conservative number. So as we worked through the year, we were able to save money in certain areas. Several of those areas were within the special education budget itself for contracted services for OTPT and some BCBA. And we were able to leverage some money in our grants. So we brought that funding requirement or estimate down from $300,000 to $166,000. So at the end of the day, that's what we requested from the excess cost grant, and that's what was transferred in from the revenue account that they received from the state of Connecticut, which was $1,082,909. So they still have this large sum of money. We accessed a portion of that fund. And as you're going to see in the grants fund when we get to that, we made up that drawdown through a transfer out of that fund into the general fund. So, and I'll explain that a little bit further. The second half of the year wasn't extremely eventful, only with the exception of a few things. Our tuition out of district went up. We did have increased costs for transporting special needs students out of district. So those things did increase in terms of demands on our budget funds. But we also had savings in other areas. We had a number of long-term absences that help us because we replace them with staff that receive a lower pay. We had contracted services, which were primarily in the area of special ed, that came in significantly below. And then we had supplies that came in below and other objects that came in below. And our fees actually went up this year by $42,000. And that's including the $40,000 we anticipated for the launch program. So budget over budget was more like $80,000 that we brought in. And most of those funds were derived from a new program by the state of Connecticut, which requires us to apply for Medicaid funds. We received $23,000 and change, and Darlene's department, now Bill's, had a significant role in applying for those grants. It's very labor intensive. Quite frankly, I think it probably costs more than $23,000 in our time, but it's something that we must do by state law. And then we had a few other areas that gate receipts, for example, came in $14,000 higher than anticipated. We had a great basketball season, lacrosse. We charged at lacrosse, and it really helped us in terms of bringing in some more gate receipts for the district. On the challenging side, we had some projects that came up after the mid-December reforecast, and some of those were in the property service areas. And there are things that you really can't anticipate. You hope that they don't happen. You try to plan for some worse scenarios, but things do happen, and they're very expensive. So we had the high school. This is all at the high school, by the way. We had a challenging high school property services account this year. When we started the chillers, we had repairs that totaled $36,600, unanticipated. We had problems with the expansion tank at the high school that had to be replaced, $15,306. We had an overflow at the acid tank up in the science lab. Just to clean that out, it was $65.59. And we had a basketball hoop that just broke, that you can't leave just hanging, so we had to replace that. That was over $5,200. And then one of the other things that I didn't note on here that I'm going to add to this description here is under the electricity account, we required a significant increase of $74,000. And the reason for that is that we are on a tariff rate for the high school and Saks, and two of the elementaries, not South, that really look at the peak demand during a year. And last year, during a weekend, during a power outage, we lost power. And the air conditioning was on, a lot of systems were on, and when the power came back on, basically all those systems flipped right on. And the demand peaked out. And you have to actually pay that peak demand, anticipated peak demand, for an 11-month period. And it really did create a budget issue for us under that scenario. So unfortunately that happened. We have taken steps to put meters on the high school. We had one put on the Saks last year because a similar thing happened the year before. But the high school was put on this summer to avoid that. And that's going to be one great thing once we get into putting cogen facilities, especially at the high school and at Saks. They're going to be gas-fed to produce our electricity requirement, so that volatility or those demand volatilities will be smoothed out quite a bit. And we'll be able to control when we do have to flip over to electricity. But that was an issue that we had. And then one of the other things that we did underneath, we've already talked about the special education costs with special ed students outplaced in our transportation. That has been discussed, and that was a need. And we did reallocate out of our supply account into equipment to take care of a few needs, which Dave talked about at his school. So at the end of the day, the excess cost grant came in below what we required, or we thought we were going to require, and we were able to close out the books at a balanced number to our budget. I'm going to take a pause there and a drink if you have any questions.
Joanne, while you're pausing, just because as you're moving through, I'll just mention quickly, a highlight here on page 4 is the custodial maintenance overtime on the bottom. I remember having discussions about this 3 years ago or so, where we were looking at numbers around 400,000 plus. And over the last couple of years, I know you and Dan and the head custodians at each of the building have worked very hard to manage that number and try to bring it down, try to share staff in different tasks. And we also invested last year into a biometric time clock, I know, that helps to more precisely allocate time for external users, for our custodians when they're in the building, to be more specific about that. So, looking at this, the bottom of page 4, and the custodial maintenance overtime, where we thought we were being aggressive when we budgeted 325 last year, we actually are coming in well below that at 265. So I just want to say compliments to you, to Dan, and just make that point that, it takes time to do some of these things, but, some strategic planning around the biometric time clock and working and training with our head custodians and other folks in districts, it's really made a significant difference for us.
That's a lot of savings too, when you think about the custodian account, including overtime. A few years ago, it was probably like 2.7 million, something like that, and we're saving, 135,000, something like that. It's a big,
that number was
big
well north of
percentage.
$400,000 in the past.
Yeah, that's great.
And that was really for the in-house overtime. We did another 100,000 outside. And the system has really enabled us to adequately and appropriately charge people for the time that they're using the buildings, rather than have it just fall out to the district to supplement. So it's been really great.
That's great.
And then one of the other plugs I'll give for our maintenance staff is we've hired a specialist type of a staff. We have a plumber, we have an electrician, we have an HVAC mechanic, we have a carpenter, a skilled carpenter. And so as a result of that, we've insourced a number of things that we used to outsource. And we're looking to expand that even further than what we're doing right now. And I can imagine, I haven't, put exact numbers to everything, but it's paying for at least one of those positions, would be my guess right now. So.
Yeah, the thing also with insourcing is you just have a lot more control over, what everybody's doing and how much ultimately you're paying versus just paying a, service contract to do X, Y, or Z, where you're not sure you're necessarily paying for what you ultimately need.
Mm-hmm. And we're able to respond to the needs immediately rather than waiting for a service contractor to come in. And it's better for our kids in the learning environment that they're in. I'm just going to go through here quickly. Yep. So if there's any questions on the general fund, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll move on to grants, which is on page 8. So fairly consistent with prior years, we receive in about $1.2 million in grants every year, primarily from the federal government. They're entitlement grants, so they're not necessarily competitive. They're based on our numbers, our demographics, and the need. And we generally spend about 80% to 85% of the grants, and we carry over a portion of those grants. So this coming year, we're carrying over $175,000 into 20. And they're 2-year grants. It's allowable by the federal government as long as we spend them for the intended purposes. I've explained in the past that this fund generally should be a break-even kind of a fund. You receive the entitlement, you spend the money, you ask for the reimbursement, and they wash out. However, when this fund, when I came in 2015, this fund had over $200,000 in fund balance. And we've worked over the past few years to identify the source of how that became in the fund. And we've gone to the state of Connecticut. We've asked them to look at their books to see if there's any funding that we owe them, because I didn't want to clear this out if we had an obligation to pay the state back. And they have not really responded that we do. The only funds that we were able to identify is an accounts payable of $61,356, which dates back to 2012. We're leaving that amount on the books just in case they come back this year. If they don't, that's going to be 8 years out from the grant receipts. So we'll send that back during the year this year. However, we are able to send back $226,181. You can see that down on the balance sheet, transfer out of grants to the town general fund. So if you take a look at the $165 that we access through excess cost, and you look at what we're sending them, the $226, they're actually a net plus of $60,404.
Yeah,
So
and
I think that's good.
And since the 165 comes from the state, it's really net positive 226, right? Because the 165 just flows through.
I mean, I think they had budgeted around $1 million in their budget, so it is going to be helpful for them. They won't have a net,
Yeah.
on an actual basis, decrease from what they anticipated. The good news about the grants are we are able to use them to not to supplant, but to supplement our operating budget. If we didn't have them, we would be spending these monies in the operating budget. So they're all very helpful and positive. We do our very best to leverage these grants through the general fund. So in other words, if we have special ed costs that are excess cost, we don't want to charge them to the grant. We want to charge them into the operating budget because we can then apply for excess cost grant for that. And once we put that process in place, we saw over $200,000 increase on an annual basis flowing into the operating budget under excess cost. So it's really good. Laura over in special ed does a great job at really tracking that with Tracy. So that's money that we've been able to get back into the fund. Is there any questions about the grants? Moving over to food service, the school lunch program. I think we had a remarkable year this year. The net profit is, without the $500,000 proceeds from the claim that we had through the insurance company, is $256,585. So we're really doing a great job monitoring all of those revenues coming in, looking at the sources of the revenue, breaking out what's catering compared to what's sales during the day. You're going to see under the actual column for 19, under other, $503,242. 500 of that number is from the big claim that we had to the insurance company. You should know that the state required us to report that as a revenue in the current year under the schedules that we have to report out. It's going to create variances this year and next year, but they felt that we had to recognize it somewhere, so that's what they directed us to do. That is currently sitting in the fund balance. Once we have a better handle on the disposition of all litigation with regards to the case, we will be in a better position to decide what to do with that. So while the fund balance may look pretty high right now, it will probably go down in the future. And what I told the Ed Resources Committee is we have some big expenditures coming up over the next few years to replace refrigeration and freezers, especially here at the high school. There's 6 of them. They're huge. And they will eat up a good portion of this balance here. And then we'll have to start with the other schools as well. One thing that we started doing this year in this fund is start investing the funds. So for the last quarter, we received $5,300. It's a sweep at the end of the day from the checking account, but it's $5,300. It should be closer to $20 next year. It's money. It pays for things. So we're going to continue to do that. They require that we keep $1 million in the checking account for compensating balances for fees, but this is around $2 million, so we're sweeping that extra $1 million. Not sure if there's any question. Yeah.
So I have a question. I mean, it's broader than just on food service, and it's broader than just the financial analysis, but there is, I think, a pretty wide perception that the quality of food service is much better at the high school versus SACs. And I'm just wondering if we've ever looked at a financial analysis of the high school operation versus the SACs operation, and if, just in terms of the quality of the food, if there's any best practices that we've looked at from the high school that could carry over to the SACs operation.
Yeah, great question. I mean, that was brought to my attention as soon as I got here my first year by several parents. And I would say I'd have to agree with them. It was basically carbs. There wasn't much nutrition there. Mm-hmm. Having come from a district that had great programs, I think, at all schools, including the middle school, we started to introduce some concepts. But since Michelle has been here the last few years, the menuing there has been significantly different. I think if you look at the website, you might get some of a sense of what that looks like. But what we added this year was a salad bar. So right in the center of the servery, it has a nice, not as large as the high school because the space is just not there, but we've added a really nice, fresh options on a salad bar there. We have good meals every day. We've actually invited some of our town members. I invite you guys as well to come in and eat with us one day. That would be great. But we moved our cook from the high school over to Saks last year. And she's phenomenal. She does a great job. And she's brought a lot of that authentic cooking. She does all her own sauces. She, vegetables, incorporates them with some pasta. I mean, we're not all pasta anymore. We have protein sources. I think there's been a lot done at the middle school. I'm out at the schools a lot in terms of food service, just watching what's going on. And I think we've had a lot of improvements. We've also consulted with a dietitian, a certified dietitian, licensed dietitian. You'll see there's a $9,000 expense on here for outsourcing, but she's been phenomenal in terms of setting up nutritional content at all of the schools and working with our parents who have children with allergies. But she's been a great asset as well. And Michelle's enthusiasm, as you probably see, isn't just for convocation. It's like her mantra every single day. She wants exciting, colorful food that kids like. And I think we've come a long way.
So yeah, and Michelle is amazing, and that's very helpful, and I'm so glad to hear like that all of those improvements have been implemented. I think moving the high school chef to the middle school, I think that's amazing. So then I would also just encourage us to look at like the food, what is being consumed, because I think there's a two-pronged. It's not only what's offered, but it's what the students are selecting and eating. So obviously for the first time, many of them have the freedom to choose their dietary choices, and some of them are, probably don't have this, the self-discipline to really make the best choices. So I would just be curious to look at the food consumption to make sure that that's following the improvement in offerings, just because when I poll like a group of 7th grade boys at my house and ask them what they're eating at Saks, it's not the best.
So I'd like to meet
But with that being said, I think it's amazing, everything that you outlined, and I wasn't aware of all that, so thank you for that. That's very helpful, and that's very good news.
And I'll just add one thing. We are putting in, we started last year to put in production records, which is a key piece of managing what kids eat. So we'll be able to really track what they're eating, what we're selling, and how we can kind of gear towards their palates, so to speak. But I think education, meeting with them at the school, or
depending upon
not.
what we're trying to accomplish.
They want French fries and hamburgers, trust me.
Exactly.
So we're trying to shift some of them away from that. I'm proud of the program. I'm very proud of Michelle. I think she's done a wonderful
She's
job in the
amazing.
last
I
2
agree.
years. And then moving over to the smaller funds, our rental facilities fund is continuing to, I think, produce the results we had intended it to a few years ago when the policy was put in place. We are going to be taking a look at using the fund balances and reinvesting them in the schools. So this year we netted $43,000 or 22.5% of total revenues to the buildings, and that was close to our intent. We have a chunk of money, 186 now. We need to start as a board thinking about how can we best use that to improve facilities for kids that are using them for programs. So that's something we talked about at Ed Resources, and we hope to get back a plan to the board at a future meeting. Donations continue to be completely off the charts, absolutely amazing at over $500,000. The booster clubs are so generous. The PTC's amazing what they do for us. We've also received a few donations of items this year, so there's been a few positive things there too. And it doesn't end. It just continues to come in. There's all different kinds of things that are provided to enhance our programs. And then the summer program, we actually drew down the fund balance by $10,000, 488. And that, the fund balance, even with that, is 231. It would take about 23 years to draw the whole thing down. Our fees haven't increased, I don't know, in years since I've been here. Jill probably would know the last time they were increased, if ever. The program is robust. We purchase what we need for the program. And it's well managed by Darren and Brett. So that's a good program. And we'll continue to monitor to make sure we don't dip too much into the fund balance, but I don't see it happen.
Is, just a question on that, is that something that we might be able to use for to offset facilities costs or otherwise? The summer school balance?
I mean, you can, the facilities are open. We are ACing them, maybe not to the full extent that we would if it was not occupied. The cleaning is is a piece of it. I mean, I suppose we could. But I think that's a board decision. We don't hire extra people. We don't incur overtime, so to speak, for it.
In the past, with that balance, we've invested in equipment that would be used during the school year, but also used in the summer programs. So carts of laptops, other types of equipment that the summer program could use, but during the 10 months of the year when they're not running, our general academic program would use it as well. So we may look to do something similar there to help to either offset or enhance.
Makes sense. Right?
I just had a question about the elementary school donations. With the variance in enrollment, is there a big variance in donations by school?
No.
No, don't see that.
No, they're very, very consistent.
They tend to
as far
be
as I can tell.
project-based.
They're project-based.
But there's, they're consistent and they talk to each other quite a bit. You know, and the principals do make sure that there's some alignment there too. So we haven't seen a big change due to enrollment or numbers.
The number has been around $500,000. I think this year is
Yeah.
a little higher than normal by 30,000. So it's pretty impressive. And then the final schedule here, which you can find on page, well, the final page, 14, is the Internal Services Fund, which is a key component to our budget every year. It's very critical. If you take a look at the actual column here, it's probably the most important. Our revenues are pretty steady as you go into this budget because a bulk of it comes from our operating budget, and we do not send anything other than what we appropriated. So if we appropriate $11,991,285, that's what we send every single year. That's our agreement with the town. The other revenues can change back and forth depending on how many retirees we have, how many people are opting in and out of the program. But it's pretty steady. So we're within 96.6% of the budget in terms of revenue, which is pretty close for this kind of operation. This year, our claims really were favorable. I mean, we had an amazing year in terms of claims this year, much better than we've had in the last few years. And so we have close to $1 million under budget position with those claims. And it was interesting, the prior year was $1 million, $1 million, $1 million every month. This year, we had numerous months, $700,000. And those are anomalies, I will have to say to you. You know, if you take a look at claims over periods of time, you're going to have a couple good years, but you're bound to have a couple that are pretty high. A few years ago, we were very high in our claims. So I just want to, couch that in that way. But we've had some great experience. Joe Spurgeon, our consultant, has done a great job in negotiating rebates for RX, for pharmacy. We're $160,000 over budget, to the good over budget. And the other great thing that we've done is partnered with the town on bidding out stop loss. And there's $195,000 very positive variance to do that. So overall, we've really enriched or increased our fund balance by $1,632,711. Now, I want to remind the board there's one caveat to that. When we did our budget last year, we anticipated using $811,670,000 of our budget, of this fund balance, to offset our budget. So we can't anticipate having this full amount of money available for current year offset to claims. However, if the claims continue to be steady and we continue to have good experience, then we may have a balance of upward of $1 million available at budget time this year to offset our increase for next year. So that would be a great thing. The town has experienced that for the last few years. It's really helped them come in at very low percentage increases. And if we can maintain that, that would be great. I would like to say to the board, which I told the Ed Resources Committee, 3 things happened this year. We had 3 contract negotiations: secretaries, food service, and TAs. All of them transitioned from the PPO over to the high deductible. And we had anticipated savings of about $500,000 between the groups. This outperformed it by almost 100%. So that is a great shift. We have the custodians going over September 1st of this year, then everybody will be over. So that's something to look at. So perhaps these large swings positive will not be as evident in our,
Let's hope.
let's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, but this is just, because I don't want to jinx it, but I just think the result is amazing, to have, potentially $1 million, knock on wood, better than what was expected is just great. And I've got to imagine, you never know for sure, but I've got to imagine a huge part of it is, plan design, working with the town on the stop loss. But it seems like it's having a positive impact on claims. Any questions? Well, I think you've done a great job here. It's through negotiations and through all the hard work with Joe and getting the right design to bring the numbers down. So, thank you.
And just briefly, I wanted to mention to the board that a couple weeks ago, we had a meeting with a few town officials talking about energy conservation opportunities with Eversource and other sources. And so we met with them a week later with Eversource. They wanted to get together with us to understand what we're doing in terms of energy conservation, where we stand this current year in terms of what's in progress, and where we think we're going in the future. We do believe we have great opportunities with gas. There's all kinds of systems, mechanical systems, our chillers that we can convert to gas that will save us a significant amount of money and guarantee the gas company year-round consumption. And so that's what I included in your packet over the weekend so that you'd have an opportunity to take a look at this. But we are knee-deep in the MEP study right now with Van Zelm, and I believe in the next month or so we'll have some harder numbers to put to the replacement of some of this equipment and the potential payback. And I think if we can present the right case through the town with Kevin and his leadership, that perhaps we can get natural gas up to West. That's our goal in all of this, and save some significant money for the district.
That would be great.
Yeah, just along those lines, there's a lot to be proud of when you take a look at the energy conservation measures, because when we start looking at for instance, 100% of our bus fleet being on propane this year, that's more sustainable. It's a friendlier fuel source. It burns cleaner, quieter, and cost a little less. So we look at the natural gas that's gone to 4 of the 5 buildings now, the solar panels that'll be going over to South in the next month or so. The other initiatives we've had, even things like LED lights and other things, we've really worked to make our buildings as green as possible, and we're going to continue doing that work. And it's benefiting the environment, and it's saving us a little money at the same time. So it's really a great initiative, I think, across the district, and something to be very proud of.
For sure. Katrina?
Just along the environmentally friendly, in the food services cafeteria, are there any efforts underway? I'm not aware, in terms of the products that we purchase, in terms of the materials, paper supplies, composting. Is that an opportunity either for savings or just to be more environmentally friendly?
Well, we have done a number of things, but I know Brian has really dug deep into this, so I'm not going to steal your thunder on
Well,
it.
and we continue to do things. Michelle has done everything from changing the water bottles that we're using so that it's thinner plastic, smaller caps, and it's more recyclable, those things, to changing the boats that the food is actually in to go to recycled materials and materials that are more easily recycled. We used to give a straw out to every child in the elementary. Now they ask for the straw, and if they do, it's a paper straw. So we've gotten away from plastic there. Other things, little things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like instead of having a stack of napkins or a traditional napkin dispenser, you can get a dispenser that actually does one at a time to try to sort of promote better behavior, so people aren't just grabbing handfuls of napkins, but just taking what they need. Part of it's teaching them, to do these things. There's many more. She's really committed to natural sourcing, of different foods. She's looking at local vendors who are, nearby and around. I know we're looking at using, is it Cisco for our food, who we hadn't been using before, who offers a rebate as well. That'll help us financially as we go through new. But she's very attuned. Michelle's very attuned to this. Her and we meet a couple of times a year to talk about kind of different initiatives she has underway and how that's going. And it's going very well, and I think that it's something she'll continue to work on. Over at South, the PTC has been involved in helping to create an environment where students are composting and sort of sorting out their garbage a little more carefully at the end of each lunch period. That poses its own challenges. When you have buckets of food waste and sort of where does it go and what do you do with it and who does what. So we're trying to work out some of those things, but certainly the educational opportunities being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Good to hear. Thank you.
Penny?
I was just wondering, on the alternative high school, how many students we opened it up with this year and how that compared to last year?
How about Bill?
We started the year with 7 students at the alternative school, and we started last year with about the same number, it was 7 or 8, and we ended with 10 last year. And we anticipate throughout the year that there'll be other students who may benefit from the program.
Great.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Thanks,
Can
Dr.
I just
Keating.
thank the board myself, since you've been thanked by everyone else? But I dearly appreciate how supportive you are for us. We've had great conversations and had resources all year long, and I think that is shown in our financial reports, and we couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you very much.
Thank you. We definitely could not do it without you, Jill. Thanks goes to you. Make our job a lot easier. Okay, next up is comments from the public. Anyone? Okay. Announcements and future business. Dr. Lutzy.
Sure. Our next Board of Ed meeting, we get back on our regular schedule. We'll meet Monday, the 16th, for our next meeting. That's it. No announcements.
All right, perfect. Next is to adjourn to executive session in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 1-2225A. The subject to be discussed is collective bargaining. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Penny? Second? Katrina? All those in favor? Thanks.
Great. Thanks.